I really want to pray, but I can't do it regularly. I say to myself, okay, this time it will happen. I start, but if I miss 1 or 2 prayers, I can't continue. When I'm outside, I can't perform ablution everywhere. So I have to make up my prayer later. I can tell you with all my sincerity that these were experienced to the fullest, my friend. I also had a period in my inner world where I went through difficult times. I started looking at this issue from a very different perspective. My heart that I thought was dead started to move. And I applied a few incredibly effective tactics that I will share with you shortly. I, who constantly hesitated to perform ablution, who couldn't get out of bed in the morning. I'm writing this during a morning prayer and getting out of my warm bed for him and leaving the darkness behind for his sake. How can I describe the peace that comes from laying out my prayer mat and saying, I am here, my Allah, just for you, knowing that He hears me, feeling that He is with me every moment. Okay, the first big challenge for me was 1. Having to pray 5 times a day and doing it regularly. It felt so hard for me. Like, as I thought about it, it felt like it would never end. So I just couldn't get myself to start, or even if I did, I'd give up shortly after. But then I discovered an amazing tactic that completely changed my perspective. Let me tell you about it right away. It's called the domino tactic. Behavioral scientist B.J. Fogg says, big goals intimidate us and make us procrastinate, but taking one small step creates a domino effect. For example, when you pray prayer consistently for 3 days without skipping, your brain starts coding it as a normal routine. It also releases dopamine, boosting your motivation. There's also something called the momentum theory. When you pray consistently for 3 days, your brain starts preparing your mind and emotions to transition to other prayers. That's so interesting. So you're like getting yourself ready step by step. Like getting out of that whole all or nothing mindset and just starting with one prayer is actually meaningful. After all, 1 is greater than 0. Now, if you're worried and thinking like, let's say I start, but there's still the stress of having to pray the other times too. Here's what you can remind yourself that, for instance, let's say you've performed the Fajr prayer. At that moment, the time for Zuhr hasn't even begun yet, so it's not obligatory on you. If Allah wills and grants you life at that moment when the time comes, then it will become obligatory for you. When we think about it this way, we focus on the moment and don't spread our patience too thin over the future. By the way, I've discovered an app that has been incredibly helpful on this journey. It's called 5 Alive. Basically, you mark every prayer you perform, and if you miss one, the app motivates you to keep going, like a friend. And it feels like playing a fun game. As you mark your prayers, your tree grows bigger. The app guides you through 40 days, helping you develop the habit of praying consistently like a companion on this journey. I've personally tried it and found it super beneficial, so I definitely recommend checking it out. 2. Feeling super lazy about making wudu. I think for a lot of people who struggle with praying, the issue of making wudu is the same. One of the most common reasons might be the issue of making wudu. We say, like, if I already had wudu, I'd just roll out my prayer mat and perform prayer right away. But the real issue is getting up to make wudu, right? For me, making wudu felt like climbing a mountain. Now I'm going to share a super simple but really effective method for this. This is called habit stacking in psychology. You know how it goes. When we want to build a new habit, we usually say stuff like, I'll start my diet on Monday, or I'll work out every Wednesday at 6 p.m., right? We kind of force ourselves, you know? Like, it gives off this weird vibe, like we gotta fit into some mold or something. But with the habit stacking method, building habits gets so much easier. Alright, I'm telling you how it works. We chain one thing to another in our minds. Like when our hands are wet after washing, it's a sign we need a towel, right? And we just automatically grab it. Wet hands and the towel are linked in our minds. Or drying your hands kind of signals that it's time to hang the towel back. And you just do it without even thinking. We can totally use the same habit trick for prayer. Take Maghrib, for example. You got home. You can chain the moment you dropped your bag off the floor with making wudu. So basically, dropping your bag becomes like a trigger. When you already have wudu, you naturally pray right away without putting it off, thinking like, it only takes a few minutes anyway. 3. The difficulty of finding a place to make wudu or pray when you're out. How am I even going to find a place to make wudu and pray out here? Anyway, I'll just do it when I get home. Does that sound familiar? When we're outside, it feels like we're in a mode like, all possibilities are gone, so I have to pray later. But honestly, it's not really like that, friends, you know? Actually, we're kind of fooling ourselves a little bit this way. So, how did I overcome it? If you're not at home and it's prayer time, the 10 times thinking tactic is totally perfect for you. Yeah, the name sounds pretty cool, right? It's a method used by a huge company like Google. So here's the thing, you multiply your goal by 10 in your mind. Like you start thinking about it as 10 times bigger. For example, you're studying for the SAT. Your motivation kind of drops sometimes, right? But then when you picture yourself at your dream university a year from now, how happy would that make you, right? By doing this, you've actually made your goal 10 times more valuable in your mind, and that's what gets you motivated to go for it. When you look at it this way, your mind automatically starts focusing on solutions instead of obstacles. And believe me, you always find a way. For example, let's say you're on a bus on your way somewhere, and the time for prayer comes, and it looks like you won't make it home before the time's up. You're like, there's no way I'll make it home in time, so I'll just pray when I get there. That's the only thing I can do right now. But actually, there's always something you can do, you know? If you think about it, not just as praying, but like, I need to answer the call of my Creator, the one who loves me more than anyone in my life. Just like He cares about me, I should be there in His presence too. That way, your goal seems 10 times more important. And then you start thinking, like, I've got to figure this out. For example, you might think, I can get off at a stop with a mosque, pray, and then hop back on the bus. If that doesn't work, you just try something else. But somehow, you always find a way. And you know what? When you take a step, Allah helps you too. Like you know that hadith, right? Our Lord says, if my slave comes to me walking, I go to him running. You really start to see that you can overcome these obstacles. We just need to always remember how much more important this is. 10 times more valuable than we first thought. Actually, in a way, it's a battle with your nafs. Always wants comfort, right? It prefers the easy way and avoids anything hard. But this is where the real challenge begins. If someone you love a lot, like your mom, was sick, and you'd go to any lengths to find the best care for her, right? And with your prayers, you're saying to yourself, for the one who loves me, created me, and values me more than anyone, I can overcome these obstacles. Believe me, once you get yourself in this mindset, you'll start finding places to do wudu while you're out, or a mosque or prayer space for your prayers.
As the Eternal Passenger Women Volunteer Team, with your help, we have already inspired many people to embrace Islam, wear hijab, and start praying. You can support this effort by clicking the Super Thanks button or donating to our Patreon to change even more lives, inshallah. Because we believe that changing one woman's life can shape the future of an entire generation.
4. Not finding the opportunity due to busyness. Yeah, we can get pretty caught up in a busy routine during the day, with classes, work, and everything else. We don't even realize how time flies. Sometimes we don't hear the adhan, or we just forget to pray in the middle of everything. The day is 24 hours long. We spend most of it on the things we need to do. But if we don't give the same value to prayer, which only takes a few minutes, do you know what that means? Without saying it out loud, we're basically saying with our actions, my Lord, you're calling me, but I can't come right now. This work is more important. If you really think about it, praying 5 times a day takes about an hour in total. That's 1 hour a day, 7 hours a week, 15 days a year. If you live for 70 years and pray 5 times a day, you're only spending about 2.9 years of your life on prayer. When you think about all the time we spend on other things, those few minutes for prayer don't seem so bad, right? And now, let me tell you the most important tactic. Are you ready? 5. I prayed with all my heart, with all my sincerity. Yes, tactics are effective, but do you know what the real issue is? It's about really feeling the struggle, asking Allah with sincere feelings to help us pray, and making dua for Him to guide us. You know how, when we were kids, we'd cry and whine like crazy to get our parents to buy us something? We'd make such a scene. It's kind of like that, asking with that kind of deep desire. If needed, it's like crying like that child, making dua with that longing, asking Allah to accept you into His presence, saying, I want to turn to you, my Allah. Please grant me this guidance, and asking for the one who owns everything with all your weakness. After making those duas, really feeling like Allah is hearing me, I started to feel those seeds beginning to grow inside me. You pray too, and know that the same Allah who hears the sound of an ant and provides for it, hears you as well, and He wants you to come to His presence. Yeah, so put the tactics aside for a second, but do you know what made me able to take wudu with cold water? Or how I started getting up from the couch, not feeling lazy, and rushing to pray instead of delaying it, rain or mud aside? Let me tell you how my conscience started moving. You know how sometimes everything just goes wrong? Your whole life gets turned upside down. I had a time when I couldn't enjoy anything. Were there people around me? Yeah, there were. But I still felt alone. Every smile, every consolation doesn't make us feel real, you know? I was searching for a way that would really bring me peace, a way to purify myself from the burden, to get rid of toxic emotions. Of course, I tried different things, new hobbies, new friendships, etc. Didn't work. It made me happy for a while, but after a certain point, it just lost its appeal. The emptiness inside me still wasn't filled. When I lay my head down at night, or even when I'm doing stuff during the day, my mind's just full of thoughts like, how's this gonna work? How will that happen? I wonder if they think this about me. Why did I say that today? I must have made a total fool of myself. I was basically living like a walking stress bomb. Then, one day, when I was feeling totally overwhelmed, I stepped outside just to get some air. I delved into questioning my life. I reflected, what if death comes now and I enter the grave with my darkened soul and without my prayers? I took a deep breath. I looked at the vast blue sky, the beautifully painted flowers, and my hands that can feel. At the moment when I began thinking about what's beyond the grave, I started to question myself. What am I doing right now? What am I living for? And I confessed to myself, there are so many good things passing by me, and I'm not even offering thanks for them by performing my prayers to Allah. Not everything could just be here for the sake of coming and going. Every moment, so many things happening in front of me, and even in places I can't see. The electrons in constant motion, my heart that's beating, the fresh air I breathe in. Every day is like a celebration in the sky. Millions of cells inside me, tirelessly aiding one another. How could I just be passing by all of this? It didn't have to be this wonderful. He didn't have to make the universe serve us, you know? Or go to all this effort. He didn't have to make those massive clouds obey without the slightest deviation. After this realization, I couldn't silence my conscience anymore. It didn't have to be this beautiful, friends. It didn't have to be this beautiful at all. He didn't have to make me feel special like this. He didn't have to give me beautiful moments, like loving and being loved. I could have been nothing. But my Lord created me, gave me life. He wanted to introduce himself to me with his artistic letters in the universe. And what he wanted was for me to thank him with my prayers. After starting to see such compassion, as bright as daylight, I couldn't ignore it when I heard the call to prayer. I always told myself, you can't ignore all this goodness, because a heart that's still alive wants to thank goodness, right? Prayer used to feel like an obligation to me, but now it's a way to thank my Lord for all the favors He gives me every moment. Actually, He just wants me to stop the world for a few minutes and take a breath. He's still thinking of me. In this life, where I deal with a lot of struggles every day and carry people's gratitude, He wants me to lighten my heart with prayer. In the prostration where my forehead touches the ground, saying, I am here, I am closest to you. I am the sufficient one for everything. It feels like He's lifting the weight off my shoulders. What can break a heart that goes to His presence 5 times a day with prayers? Think about it. The one who holds the key to everything is with you. He's calling you to come to Him 5 times a day, to take a break and heal yourself. He wants to remind you that there's someone who will heal your wounds. He wants to help you find your strength again. He wants you to open your hands to Him and tell your troubles to Him. And He says, Call upon me, I will respond to you. It feels like a breath to my chest, tightening from the chaos of the world. The power of remembering that my Lord is with me is so great that I've realized that prayer is not just an act of worship. It was about not denying it, not turning a blind eye. It was about thanking Him for everything He moves without the slightest deviation. It is the feeling of the value that He's given me on this planet as I walk towards my end with every passing second. The day my breath runs out, I have a light that can brighten my darkness now. I have my thanks that can be a remedy for me in the grave. So, thank you, my Lord, for letting me thank you in your presence with my prayers.